Hello there, welcome back to the Talking Turtle podcast. My name's Hayden.
And I'm Teddy.
And today we'll be going through episode 14 of the Nickelodeon show Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series.
Okay, so in this episode we're going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 14, The New Girl in Town. What do you think about this episode, briefly?
Well, this episode was quite different to most episodes. Like, most of the time we would see Donnie and April being cringy, but today it's taken a turn for Leonardo, as we will soon later find out that there is a new girl in town, as the name says. But yeah, this episode was quite an eye opener because it's been flipped around, if you get what I mean. But
yeah,
overall, it's a decent episode, and we get to see some old foes from the Turtles, which was really cool. But all I can say is, good episode. Let's get into it.
Yeah, this episode for me is going to be quite hard to talk about, just because the things that happen in the future of this series, this is one of the biggest episodes in the show, and it's going to be quite hard to not talk about certain things. But overall, I thought like this episode was quite good. But knowing what I know about it in the future, I would say there's a lot of things I would change about this episode. So with the first scene, we got Snakeweed, who's back, and he's just running around kidnapping the pizza guy. And the Turtles have an argument about the way that they should go around trying to collect him. But then have an argument, and now Mikey is sort of thinking he can be the leader. What do you think of this scene?
Well, the first thing I thought was like Snakeweed returning. I was like, oh my gosh, is that Snakeweed from episode 1? And of course, I was at first thinking, it's got to be, is that Snakeweed or is that a different person or like a different mutant? But then, of course, I went back and saw it, and I was like, oh my god, that's Snakeweed. And Snakeweed from episode 1's back. But we haven't seen him all this time, so I don't know what he's been up to.
Yeah.
But he's back without any notice, which is awesome, I guess. But of course, he's kidnapping people now, which is a bit weird. And of course, he kidnaps the pizza guy, and oh my god, Mikey's reaction to that was priceless. It's like, no. Mikey's reaction, I gotta say, Mikey's reaction was a bit like over the top. Like, he's kidnapped the pizza guy. It's like he said he's kidnapped the president or the prime minister or the crown. It's that reaction, but it was just really cool to see that happening. And of course, really hyped to see Snakeweed back, and of course the new leader. However, I would have liked to see Snakeweed a bit more before Raph absolutely obliterates him.
Yeah.
Like, he just comes out of nowhere with his blade and just slices him like butter. Just absolutely out of nowhere. But I would have liked to see more screen time of Snakeweed in that scene. But however, hold on a minute. Oh, we do see more Snakeweed. It's just, sorry, I'm going off camera here. But how did Snakeweed, like, I know this is later on in the episode, but how did Snakeweed, like, regenerate? Like, we see him in the sewers. Yeah. Hold on, no, I can't spoil it.
No, I can. I mean, the people who are watching this, already should have watched the episode by now. It's their fault it had not seen a 10-year-old show.
Yeah,
it's been out long enough.
Yeah, good point. But I'm just trying to figure out, how does Snakeweed regrow or come back from the dead? Like, Raphael, proper.
Oh, because he's like a plant, and they regrow. Because he's like a weed, so like they keep regrowing every year.
Oh, right, that makes a lot more sense.
I mean, that is literally his name, Snakeweed.
Snakeweed. Weed. Yeah, that kind of makes a lot more sense now. I was thinking, it's like, is it clone? Is it like something else? I got really confused there, but yeah, that scene was just a real mind boggler for me. It's like, seriously, he's dead? Like, come on. There's like one scene, but of course later on in the episode we find out that he's back, which is awesome, and he's got some new abilities, I believe. But yeah, that first scene where he's back is really, really awesome. And of course, following on from that scene is where Raph and Leonardo argue about who's becoming the leader, and this was like a real game changer for me. Like, I know they argue all the time, but this was like a whole new level of arguing.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't see this coming. Like, Leo just changed, like, instantly. This is like a Raph version right now. Like, Raph's usually the one with a fiery temper and quick to change attitude, but this time it was Leo.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, that scared me. That
Oh.
scared me. What did you think?
Okay, so I enjoyed having Snakeweed back. I feel like he, like any mutant really, is always quite fun to have back, especially like in terms of what they can do, what they can't do, and what like the situation they'll put the turtles in. I think that's always quite cool. The joke that Mikey said about they're gonna do some gardening, and his reaction afterwards go ha ha ha. Yeah, it's something like that. Oh god, that was just so bad. I hate that scene so
Oh,
much.
yeah. Mm, that
Um,
was
yeah,
that was bad.
the Mikey being the leader scene was a bit funny, I guess. But the Raph versus Leo thing, I thought it was a bit pointless, really. And the reason why I say it is just because it was a pointless argument. Because whatever way they went, if they were going on the rooftop, I mean, going on the rooftops would have been a lot slower just because they had to climb up the rooftops and going across them. But going to run around on the streets is a bit more riskier because it's been so it felt a bit more pointless, really, because whatever way they go, they will be able to catch up to him. But because of this argument, they let Snakeweed go, and it felt really pointless for me. Or I mean, overall, it's an argument. Whereas something like in 2003 show, when they have an argument, it is. I think like the best way to describe it is for basically you're not sure on who is right and who's wrong, just because they bring up like really good arguments on why they are right. Like a good example would be after they defeated the Shredder, Leonardo thinks, because the city is going to war, and the Turtles should help out because, like, basically they were the one who caused it. However, Raph thinks that and Turtles shouldn't join in just because it technically isn't really their fight. It's just the gangs going to war. So, and you're left really undecisive on who's right and wrong. But in this situation, I don't think you really cared too much because just because if you're on the streets or the rooftops, you're gonna catch up to him. It just felt like a really pointless situation or argument that was just more or less forced in to do this type of story. Um, but yeah. So after the theme song, we do have Leonardo by himself, and then he goes up against a few foot soldiers, but then he finds himself going against Karai. What did you think of Karai, and what do you think of the scene?
Well, I'm gonna have to like this is a very big scene for me to pick and dissect because this scene just
Okay.
blew. This scene was, I will not lie, like this scene was. I'm not gonna lie, it kind of reminded me and Donnie and April's first scene together.
Oh yeah.
Like it really did, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, please no cringe. I cannot handle another cringe fest after that. But yeah, this was really good. After Leo fights the Foot Clan, and it was really surprising for me to see the Foot Clan back in action again, which was really awesome to see. And as per usual, they fail, in as they do. But
At least it's not the
then, of
Krang.
course, oh yeah, at least it's not. Oh, thank God! I was so glad that this episode did not have any Krang in it. My
Just wait
ears
until
were
next week.
saved. My ears were saved for a day, but yeah, hey ho. But this scene was, it was really, really special, an important scene, like for me, out of the whole episode. But we first get introduced to Karai. Hopefully I'm saying this name
Yeah,
correct.
you are.
Karai. Thank you, because I don't want to get butchered in the comment section after this. Like Karai, but Karai is hands down
New favorite
badass.
character?
Like she's kind of pushing it towards Chris Bradford and
Oh.
that sort of level, Master Splinter as well, if you understand where I'm coming from.
Wow, I did not think she had that much of an impact on you.
Like, Karai I could see her becoming a very, very good character, especially towards the Turtles, especially towards Leonardo.
You have no idea. She is one of the most important characters in the series, and you do see a lot more of her. So you do have a lot to look forward to.
hmm that's a good thing. But literally, Karai comes out of nowhere, and then of course she immediately attacks Leonardo with this white powdery stuff, which blinds him. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? It was like a subtle introduction to full-on combat.
Yeah.
I had no idea, and of course Leonardo had the same thing after she left. It's like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, I have to say that the whole scene, I thought you know, in the live action movie which I showed you, and you got Raphael before he got attacked by the Foot Clan. It reminded me quite a bit of that scene where just Lino was just annoying, just beating up some random stuff. I thought the way he went up against the foot stuff, I thought that was okay. There wasn't anything too special about it. And then Karai's introduction, I will say this: I think she probably has the best introduction, or this version of the Turtles has the best Karai introduction out of every single version. And it really did have like a really big, I would say it had an impact on like, the show, but as well as the viewers. It was like something that we've not seen before, and it definitely, I would say, like made you feel uncomfortable in a way, not in like a bad way, but it's just more of this like, oh, what could happen next? Like she could do this, but we don't really know her. So I thought that was like really good for a character to like relieve a lot of mystery for her. And yeah. So Leo goes home afterwards, and that's when Donnie locates that Snakeweed is in the middle of a little place. I don't think there's anything really too much here to say. Was there anything you want to comment on?
I just want to comment on the bitterness of Raph. Like, Raph is like, we've had Raph episodes in which he is an idiot and a bit stubborn, and now we see this a lot more often. However, I just want to take a real slow approach at this because I really wish that this episode was placed back a bit further, like towards episode 1 or 2, to show Raph's bitterness
Okay.
towards Leo and to show how Raph's anger is slowly diminishing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand why they would put Raph's anger so far in the series so far, which just confused me. Like, Leo was decided to become the leader. You figured this out so many episodes ago. Why are you questioning it now? It worked so perfectly, and now you are just messing things up.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Also, I would say that this episode in particular, compared to like the last couple, Rasango, again, it just comes out of nowhere, really. Compared to like last episode, it was like normal for Raph, but now in this episode, he's like really just angry with everyone, which I felt was a bit out of place for him. Like, I'm not saying a lot because like his whole character trait is just being angry, but with this one, it felt a bit more and just come out of nowhere and a bit unusual, really. Okay. Okay. So first, I'd like to talk about the snakeweed scenes first. Because because the Karaya scenes take place during the snakeweed scenes, so I feel like it might be best to just stick with one and then go with the other. So the snakeweed one, but Raph, Donnie, Mikey locate snakeweed in the middle somewhere. So we're going to him in the sewers, and that's when they find his lair and they start to attack snakeweed. However, things go really wrong, and Mikey gets extremely hurt. Raph realizes just how much responsibility Leo has, and they escape barely. Uh, what do you think of all these scenes?
Well, this is a lot to take in. It's just because there's so much going on at one time. Like at the first scene where they're entering Snakeweed's lair, that scene was quite funny for me
Yeah.
because as they're walking along, and I don't know why, but Mikey has now realized that he lives in a sewer and of course the sewer is filled with sewage, and he realizes what it is he's actually walking in. And I'm like, how long have you been living in this sewer, Mikey? Surely you would have picked it up by now. Like, surely. And that was just really funny because a bit dumb and a bit funny, which I kind of like, but
Yeah.
it's just, seriously, you figured this out now? You figure it out as just, yeah, it just
As you're
doesn't,
walking
it
through
doesn't
it.
make sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. You've been living in the sewers all your life, and now you only realize what it actually is. And oh, it was
Mm.
just funny. And of course, this was just, I don't understand why, but it was just so funny because he just can't, he clicks, his brain
Yeah.
is now trying to process that he lives in a sewer. He's surrounded by sewage. He lives in a sewer. My brain also had like a bit of a meltdown after hearing that. I was like, Mikey, 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 come on. Can you keep up? It's already been about what, 16, 17 years and you've been living in the sewers?
Oh, I really like.
Gotta,
I really like that scene just because one, the joke for it, but also two, I always felt a bit smart. Like I always felt proud of myself because I was smarter than Mikey with that scene.
yeah, I think everyone has that same feeling, mate. Everyone has that same feeling.
But yeah, you were saying before I interrupted?
That's alright. I was just really funny about it. It was just so funny. And of course, after that, Raph is now being the leader, and he sounds like a lot like Leo, which Donnie points out really clearly. But of course, then Raph goes back to his old ways of being the brute in the group, which is just really weird. Like he's acting like Leo, and he's like trying to take control of the situation, but he can't. If you get what I mean, he doesn't
Yeah.
have that power, that
Mm.
emphasis on him, such as Leo. Like Leo, you could feel the presence of his power, subtle, but in
Yeah.
like a lot of emphasis on his power. Raph he's the opposite, if you get what I mean. Like
Yeah.
he just doesn't have that emphasis. Like he's the brute,
Mm.
he's the muscle. Leo is the brains and muscle all combined into one. But yeah, it was just really funny and really weird to see how much he wanted to be the leader. It was just so weird for me. It was just really, I couldn't make sense of it all.
Mm. What do you think of the Snakeweed versus Toes fight scene?
That was also very interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I did have sweaty palms after watching this.
Really?
When when Leo was thrashed, I mean not Leo, Mikey, sorry. When Mikey was thrashed against the wall, and of course Raph goes and attends to him, and of course Donnie's trying to fight off Snakeweed and rescue the people. Raphael goes into shell shock.
Was that pun intended?
Maybe.
Okay, yeah, just continue, just move on.
he he goes into shell shock, which
Yeah,
is,
just continue, just stop repeating it.
yep.
That joke has
Okay,
been used
okay,
several
okay,
times.
okay.
They even use it in the show. They even use it in the show at one point, so you're not that funny.
Ow. I tried.
Just don't.
Right. After being shell shocked,
For God's sake.
he then realizes that it's not the role for him, and of course, Donnie has to come over, take control of the situation, and save Raph and Leo's shell. I mean, not Leo. Why do I keep referring? Sorry, Mikey's and Raph's shell. Like he has to save them, and of course, that was just really weird because Donnie never usually takes the initiative. He never becomes a leader until it is absolutely necessary, which I quite like because Donnie could take. It's
Yeah.
nice to know that Donnie can take over a situation and he can control it if the brothers fail. Like Mikey, he could probably take control of the situation when and if he wants to, but
I think it depends on the version of Mikey, because I don't think this one
yeah.
can.
Oh no, definitely not. Like, he's very underrated in this one too, after his little euphoria moments in back in episode 4 and 5.
Yeah.
But I think that time has passed, sadly.
Oh, then the last final one was the Tails going back into a lair, and then Donnie getting a text from April. What did you think of this little scene?
Oh, that scene. I'm not gonna lie, I was just like, it was a bit, it was kind of a bit cringe. Like, it was like, oh my gosh, she's finally messaged me on my T phone, which I made for her.
I was
I'm
expecting
like,
it to be worse.
yeah, to be honest, he's calmed down on the cringe fest of his relationship with April. Like, it's okay, I'll accept it, I'll let it slide, but we can't have any more of that, Donnie.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta be chill about these things. You like keep it to yourself. Not the world doesn't have to know about your crush or anything like that. Just keep it cool. Say, oh, I've got a message from April. You don't have to like pull out the trumpets and make a huge thing out of it. It's just a message. Just chill.
Yeah.
But that was, I don't know. I was like, okay, it's not as cringy as it was hoping not to be, but it was okay. I let it slide. It was a good one.
Yeah, I'll just say with the Snakeweed versus Toads fight scene, I really enjoyed the lighting for the whole situation. It really did have like a different kind of mood and feeling with this location. Um, with the pods, I thought that with the amount of pods he had, or Snakeweed had, I felt like he should have had more than like 3 captives. But when they get when Toads get them out, there's only 2 that walk away. So yeah, but I did think the Snakeweed. I feel like the Snakeweed fight scene. It was interesting to see the Turtles fight, but also I would say it was more interesting to see the effect it had on Raph with it, with him being with all the trauma. I'd say like
Oh, you didn't say
yeah. Yeah, no, I was not saying shell shocked. Um,
it.
yeah, I mean, I thought that was like a really interesting way of like showing the big effects on him because he didn't really. I don't think he actually punched Snakeweed once in that scene. So I thought that was like a really interesting way of showing it. And like you already said with like showing how much Raph wanted it, I do like the big contrast between this show and the 2003 one where Raph sees a problem with Leo's leading and he will comment on it and make a big deal about it and he doesn't really respect him in a way. But you got the 2003 one where Raph as a child he thought he was going to be a leader and then like something happened and then Leo got the role and then he respects him. I do like the big contrast between the two shows and how they handle the whole leadership aspect of it. And this version I feel like has an interesting way they go around it, but I don't think it's ever truly explored. I mean, just because Raph has to go at Leo for being a leader about how he's bad, about his plans, and but when he gets to this point, he sees the flaw, or he sees why he can't be a leader, and sees like how much responsibility Leo has. But then in like future episodes and stuff like that, this problem keeps coming up, comes up again, and be like, "Oh, Leo, you're bad" and all that. So again, just like with previous episodes, he hasn't really like most stories when like a story is focused on the Pacific Turtle, that story never really sticks, and that's sort of annoying. But
Mm.
yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the cry scenes. Um, okay, so Leo's out in the park, and that's when he has to fight Cry. What did you think of this scene?
This scene was, I'm not gonna lie, it was very weird. Like, you can sense a relationship forming between Leo and Karai. Like, even though Karai was only in for a couple of scenes, it was like deep and powerful because you
Yeah.
saw Leo's reaction to Karai in the first scene and
Mm.
how his eyes just fixate on her. And it was a bit weird at first. It's like, and immediately they just clicked like that, and it was Leo's awakening. That's what I call it, Leo's awakening to the whole relationship sort of thing. He's got to go through what Donnie's going through, and it's going to be another cringe fest, I'm sure of it. But this time, hopefully, will be more cooler because they are fighting and they are being mates over it. Like, Karai just chats normally to him whilst Leo is defending for his life, which is really funny. Like, they're just casually fighting and casually talking about their day, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like a normal Tuesday for them. That's literally what it is. But it was just so weird just to see Karai and Leo talk about, like, as mates, like being friends. It was so weird. Like, of course we find out she's a Foot Clan, and of course Leo is falling for a Foot. Like, how was this even possible? I have no idea.
You make it sound like he has a foot fetish. He fell for a foot.
Oh. Oh my gosh, yeah, that does sound kind of weird.
Yeah, I have to say that the Leo fight with Cry, I found was really interesting, as just because in every version of Turtles, or I say from Rise and the most recent Michael Bay movies, Leo and Cry have always had a very interesting relationship that has always been something that's been rather interesting to really explore within the show and the comics. And it's always quite interesting to see how they like the first fight, how their relationship with one another grows throughout their series. And with this fight, I felt like it was one of those ones where like it was a really interesting one because they weren't really fighting to the death, and it wasn't really fighting just for fun. So it was more of a fighting to really learn each other, and I really did enjoy that aspect of it, as it wasn't just going full in, oh yeah, we just want to kill you and all that. So I did really enjoy that, and I would say that the whole fight scene overall was rather interesting, and I did quite enjoy it. You did also mention about Leo and Karai maybe having a relationship. Uh, do you think that maybe this could be something happening in the show, or do you think it could just be a one-off type thing?
I can see something blossoming between the two. Like, I can see something is about to go down. Like, sure, it may be in like the far-flung future, but this episode was an eye-opener to Leo, and of course how he's becoming a teenager, an adolescent who is like, I'm not gonna lie, most teenagers are reckless and they like to do stuff, and I got no issues with that and about Leo and Karai being friends, but she is at the end of the day the enemy to the turtles, and we soon find out how big of a threat she is, which just throws everything in the tailspin.
I like the fact that you can get behind, like the only problem with this relationship, if it does go into one, is the fact that she's the enemy, and not the fact that it's a turtle and a human. Like I mean, also that's another thing you don't have a problem with. It's April and Donnie's. Like the only thing you don't like about it is the fact that and it's a bit cringe. Not the fact that it's
Oh
a turtle
no.
and
Oh no. Why has this only just kicked in? This is only just kicked in for me. What in the God's name? Oh no. Is this? I don't want to say it. I want to keep it PG as much as possible on this podcast, but would you call that what's it called?
bestiality.
Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah, a bit.
Yeah, this is getting somewhere.
But with the turtles, it's just one of those things where like you just sort of had to accept because there's just so many weird stuff that goes on within the Toll universe, like relationships, like in like two comics, Raphael has gone out with two fox, so he could say that that he's into furries. Michelangelo went out with a princess dinosaur and had kids. Uh,
What?
yeah, Raph's also been out with a lizard. Oh god, who else?
Jesus.
Yeah, they just go out with like pretty much like any. Oh no, it's all really weird because like if you do it with if you do it with another animal, then that's still really weird because it's a different species. If you do it with a human, then that's all kinds of weird. But if you do it
How the
with
hell does that work?
yeah, then then the turtles, with the turtle, that I don't know, that seemed a little bit weird in a way, just because there's only been the four male turtles. But I mean, there has been occasions when they've brought in female turtles, such as Jenica, but nobody's really come with that yet. I mean, she's part of the LGBT community, and I think I don't know if it's she's a lesbian or bisexual, but she's going out with a female pig. But you got in the Next Mutation series, the one with the female turtle, and this was, I know I showed you pictures of her, Venus de Marlowe, the live action one, and they said that basically she was their sister, but not in a way, and throughout the whole first few episodes, they're all hitting on her, even though technically she's still their sister.
What? So it's like a stepsister situation? Oh gosh, no, erase that.
Sort of stepsisters, sort of not, sort of. Yeah, this is all just one of those things where like you more or less just have to go with it and to accept it. I mean, hey, yeah, I mean you are 14 episodes into this now. If you haven't learned to accept it yet, then
Yeah,
I
to be honest, I don't know why it's taken me so long to actually think about the whole moral and ethical side of things to this
oh yeah.
series. But
I mean the thing is, there's so many things you can really look at and be like, if you just look at the show from different points of views, I mean, I know they can say that about any show, but like this show in particular, or any version of Turtles, if you just look at it in a slightly different way, then it could change your opinion about the show. Um, I'll probably explain a bit afterwards, after the podcast, what I mean by this, because I'm not too sure. The example that I'll give is bad to put on a podcast or not. So yeah. Okay, moving on, shall we?
yep, shall we?
We got a Shredder and Karai scene. I did like this scene quite a bit because I like Karai's sass, where basically Karai's Shredder's sort of like, oh, I mean, Leonardo's there, you failed to kill him, and Karai goes, well, you failed too. I definitely loved that sass from her.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say about that scene, or
That
was he just perfect?
that sass was on point. I will not lie. That sass was on point. Like that was pretty good. Like, oh, you never caught him before, so why do I have to catch him and all that? And it's just talking back to her father, which we now realise. Like, I can understand where this chat back is coming from. Like, you're talking to her father, but you wouldn't usually do that to the Shredder, you know? Like, the
Yeah.
most powerful man in the TM,
The Turtle universe.
the Turtle universe, yes. I wasn't about to say the Marvel comic universe, but the Turtle universe, and she's talking back to him, and that. I just love that scene, and that was quite a funny one to watch. That was probably on point. That was on point.
Yeah, don't say that. They remind. I feel like we've all been through that experience when we were kids, and our parents say something, and then we say that they haven't done it, and they felt like one of those things, and I feel like it was like really good and also a little bit relatable. Uh,
Mm.
well, next scene is Leo talking to April about Karai. I found this scene to be a bit funny, but at the same time, really pointless. As all April was doing, or all this thing was doing, was just basically like retelling the same things which we already knew about. Oh, Karai's in the Foot Clan. Karai wants to see Leo on that building. What was there to that scene?
Um, that scene, I have the same thoughts about that scene, mate. I just trying to figure out why would you go to April in the middle of the night, talk to her about girl stuff and relationships. I don't get it. Like, maybe some people understand it and are related to it. Like, you tell a friend about a relationship, like it's like, oh, met this girl, is like, and all that. It's like something from Greece. Like, the girls are
Mm.
wondering what's going on. It's like they found a boyfriend, and it's just it's just one of those typical scenes where they're like, "Oh my god, you got to tell me everything. Is he big? Is he tall? Has he got a bike? Has he got a dog?" That sort of stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't see the point in all of that. Like, I don't see the point of that scene happening. Like, surely, I think what Leo was trying to get out of that was like, "Can you please talk me out of this sort of situation?" But I don't think that worked for Leo.
And, why would someone be interested to know if someone's got a bike or not?
To be honest, I'm not too sure. I talked about Greece for a split second, and I just thought, like, don't know where it's come from. It's just what popped into my head first thing.
Yeah, I must admit the scene is really. I feel like this scene could have gone in another direction. Basically, be like, oh yeah, and this girl is and comes from Canada, like that sort of thing, fake girlfriend.
Yeah.
I feel like it could have easily turned into that sort of situation.
Mm.
Yeah. After that, the final battle was Snakeweed versus Leo and Raph. What did you think of this scene?
This scene was. It was actually quite a nice scene to watch because they finally got back together after arguing, and it was just. I'm not gonna lie. It was a bit like this is what I'm trying to say with the episode, like this episode being further back when Snakeweed, like episode 1 or 2 or 3,
Mm,
just to show that Raph's bitterness is slowly getting better, but they decided to put it in episode 14.
yeah.
And of course, it's good to see them fight again as brothers, but this literally all happened in previous episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just trying to get my head around it on why they're doing this now to defeat a threat. Like they all decided it was going to be Leo all the way back in episode like 1. It was there, set in stone. Everyone knew it. But yeah, that's my negative out of this. But overall, the fight scene was on point. Like Leo and Raph, they're brothers. They're fighting again, teaming up, really awesome. And of course, just seeing how the whole scene plays out and just how. Yeah, sorry, I just had a realization that I may have got the confusion between the two scenes earlier, but that doesn't matter because we then like where Snakeweed gets decapitated into when the ice capsule happens, and of course he becomes like ice and he becomes destroyed. That was really awesome to see because, to be honest, I didn't think that would be on the air. Like him getting destroyed, like he turns to ice and then Raph cutting him open and he just falls to shreds.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think that was gonna fly on the air, but it did. And that was just really cool to see how they would create such an a tense scene of where they're gonna fight, and of course he gets slain.
Mm.
But of course, referring back to my previous sentence at the start of the podcast, like he then dies, and of course his heart beats, and of course he must regenerate because he must regenerate. Like he dies, and of course he comes back. Like he must come back, surely, because it was prompted at the end of the scene that his heart is still beating, which that is pretty cool. I can't lie, that is pretty cool to see his heart still beating after it thaws out the ice. But it's just a really good scene to watch overall. Like Leo and Raph fighting again. It's a good scene overall.
Yeah, I'd say that this like for me, I'd say that this final battle, it was like really enjoyable. There was like I'll say there's some good moments, nothing too bad, but it was just a really good, enjoyable fight. I just can't really like it was a really good, enjoyable fight, and yeah, the only thing I'd have to say about it is well, I will go back to one of your things that you said at the in a minute. But how did Snapery get that whole or half a canister in his mouth? That was the only biggest question I had about that whole scene.
Yeah, his mouth must be huge.
Mm.
Like, what that mouth do? Oh, jeez.
we've really been through this podcast has been through emotions, or specifically this
Mm,
episode.
yes, this episode has uncovered a lot of things.
Mm.
This episode.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to the point which you made about like Raph, like this episode not being like maybe not being in the right order, and with Raph not learning anything. And this is sort of something which I've been saying a few times on the podcast, and I was thinking about another point to put onto this one. So again, like Raph didn't show any of these emotions before this episode about Leo being in the bad. We might show like one or two, but like nothing really too major. It wasn't very constant. So getting up to this point of like not being a leader didn't really feel that rewarding and felt really weird. And at the same time, after you go after you finish this episode, you go on to the next one, and then they don't ever talk about it again, and then like, until like the next episode, or until the next episode, which they deal with this problem, and they forget about this episode entirely. So it makes the episode a bit pointless in a way. But and then lean on to the next point, which starts something to do with this point, is the fact that in the 2003 show, the characters like have a big episode about like a certain thing, and then they'll not do this thing for quite a while, and if they do, they have a really good reason why. Just like with Raph, when he got angry, they had a few episodes to build up to it, and then his big breakout moment. And then it wasn't until about like 10 episodes later he had another still breakdown, but it was very understandable why he had one. And and then like, also like all the characters when they go through character arcs and story development and stuff like that. But with this show, they don't really tend to do that. They have about four characters who go for anything like that, and that is quite disappointing just due to what this show is and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, this could have been like a really interesting story arc they could have gone through. I'm not saying like a whole big season, but maybe a couple of episodes of when a little build up to it, and then maybe having this episode, and then maybe like I don't know, making like a few jokes between each other, like next few episodes. But they don't do anything like that, and that is like really disappointing. But yeah, and then for the final scene, we just got Mikey waking up and yeah, there's not really too much to it. I mean, guess Raph says sorry, but that's more or less it, really. Did you have anything to say about the scene?
Um, to be honest, I'm not too sure. Like, of course, Raph apologizes and to Mikey, which is, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of heartwarming a bit because Raph is finally opening up his shell and becoming more emotional. And like you said before, this episode would have been great, like for a little branch off series, or like during episodes, like between 1 and 2 and 3 and all that. Like this would have been a great setup to show how Leo became the leader of the group.
Mm,
If you understand where I'm coming
yeah.
from, like this, like it would have been a great episode for this.
Mm,
And then of course you have the other episodes following along. That would have been absolutely amazing to see. Like the little progression of how the brothers hate each other but have to become one to fight off the evil.
yeah.
That would have been much better, in my opinion.
I do think like a really good example of this, like the whole story of not like leader problem and then coming to realize the responsibility is the 2007 movie where basically the whole plot. I think you've seen this one where the Toes are all split up, but then they come together at the beginning of the movie. But like the whole family dynamic is really unstable and they don't really trust each other as much. But then you get to a big fight between Leo and Raph, and it's probably one of the best scenes in the movie, or no, the best scene in the movie, and one of the best scenes in the whole franchise. And you really do feel the emotional weight between the two. And then at the end of the movie, they come together to defeat the bad guy. And I feel like that sort of story works really well as a much longer type story instead of a 20-minute episode that doesn't really expand on anything really.
Definitely, I agree with you on that one.
But yeah, that's it for the episode. What do you think about this episode overall?
This episode was a really a big eye opener for me. Like you got some of the other episodes that were really good, but this one was like, it was good. I wouldn't rank it in my top 10,
Oh,
but it was good. However, Karai is such an awesome character, and I'm not gonna lie, Karai is on the list. She's just behind Master Splinter at the moment because we don't know nothing about her, but she's up there on the list. So Chris Bradford, Splinter, and Karai. That's the main three that I've got on my list so far. But I'm hoping
what about Leatherhead?
Karai proves herself. Oh, Leatherhead. Oh gosh, I forgot to add it to the list.
You know,
Leatherhead, yeah,
you know what? Top 5 then.
top 5, yeah. It goes Chris Bradford, Leatherhead, Splinter, and then Karai. That's the list.
I said top 5. You gave me 4 options. Who's the 5th?
Karai.
No, you said Splinter, Chris Bradford, Leatherhead, and Karai. That's not a top 5. That's 4.
Shit.
So who's the 5th one?
That's still pending.
I feel like it's Krang. Yeah.
Krang.
Okay,
Absolute.
moving on.
Krang.
He said name now.
Let's move on, shall we?
Yes. Okay. Okay. So we got some comments about this episode. From Lil Sim, he says cool episode. From Stealth Royal, they put cool, but I'm not too sure if this person was saying cool about the episode or they were saying cool about the podcast thing. They didn't really explain it. All they put was cool. So
Oh.
either way, thank you for commenting.
Cheers.
Okay, time to go on to the next one. Okay, we got I really hate periods. They're back, and they put love how they first portray Karai and her sassiness. Lol. Also, the argument between Leo and Raph in the beginning was hilarious, and the award for worst leader goes to. I feel like I agree with the Karai thing with her sassiness. I feel like that was really good. However, I don't think the Leon argument. I don't think it was hilarious. I just felt like it was a pointless plot device, really, for this episode. We got
Definitely.
Freelance Wolf again. They put love the ref's character growth in this and what it resolved to the whole Leo and Raph rivalry bit so quickly. Leo doesn't 100% obey Splinter, which is nice. He has his own ideas. Yeah, I say that's like a quite good idea. Well, Hayden, do you want to hear some trivia now?
Yeah, definitely. Let's hear some trivia.
Okay, so according to Kenny Berlin, who was the original episode production, who worked on the original production order, this episode was supposed to come before last week's episode, but I mean, for some reason, the US and also Netflix decided to air this episode out of order for some reason, and I didn't mention this last week, but I feel like it might work a bit better to mention it with this episode. And yeah, Captain Ryan reveals the spaceship name as being the Dauntless, which is a nod to the World War II era carrier born driver bomber, the Douglas SBD Dauntless, which were operated mainly from the aircraft carrier the USS Enterprise, making the circle round again. Wow,
That's awesome.
yeah, I'm quite surprised at that. I know that you like your award stuff, and I mean that's not trying to make you like paint a really bad image of you, like you like war.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised. I mean, I know that I didn't pick up on that, but I know that you do like your war stuff in history. I'm quite surprised something like that you didn't pick up.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
would
I'm
have
not
never known
I'm not
that.
trying to say it
That
really
is
bad
awesome.
now but like, moving on. This episode was originally going to air on Saturday morning, February 2nd, 2013, but was moved up a day earlier to Friday night on February 1st, 2013. The high-rise building where Karai arranges to meet Leo is called the Berlin Building, named after the show writer Kenny Berlin. The store that Karai wants to steal, and this is actually a really interesting one, and Yeah, okay. So the cry that they want to steal is called Miyamoto Musashi, who is a real Japanese swordsman and ronin. And basically, ronin means a sort of like a samurai, but without a master or someone to serve, and they're on the run. And yeah, and a good example of that would be with this next point, and or afterwards, he became a legendary figure for his excellent swordsmanship and remains very popular to this day. He is the founder of the Ninit Ryu style swordsmanship. Um, yeah, I mean, I know some stuff, but I didn't know that, I didn't know that he was a real person. But that's actually quite cool. But also, the name Miyamoto Musashi is also a little reference to the character called Miyamoto Usagi, who you might know him as Usagi Jimbo. And I've shown you some stuff from him. Do you remember when I bring in some images of a samurai rabbit? Do you?
Yes, I remember now.
Yeah, that character. There's a direct reference to him. And the surprising thing is that most people actually think that that character came from Turtles, just because that's. I mean, Turtles has always been a much bigger franchise than him. I would say it's probably actually the third biggest franchise in the world, surprisingly. Um, but and most people would actually, of course, he appeared in quite a lot of shows, and people would actually start to think that he was a character from the Turtles. However, that's actually not the case, as Usagi Jimbo has been around in his own comic series, and it's actually the same age as the Turtles, and it's still being written. I mean, the character's been written and drawn by Stan Sakai, and he's kept ownership for that character for 40 years, which that's actually quite good. Okay, do you want to hear the cast now?
Yeah, let's hear the cast.
Okay, Rob Paulson did Donatello. Leonardo did Jason. Oh no, Jason Biggs did Leonardo. Greg Sykes did Michelangelo. Sean Astin did Raphael. Danny Jacobs by Snakeweed. Mae Whitman by April O'Neil. We've got Kerry Michael Richardson as the Shredder. Brian Bloom as Captain Martin. No, Anna Grays as Celestial. Don't know who that is. Oh, apparently she debuted and died in this episode. Great. Oh! Yeah, I remember this. It was that alien that Kazran was doing stuff, unspeakable stuff to.
Oh, that right.
We've got Hoon Lee. Oh no, Hoon Lee plays Splinter. And what do you want to check it? Danny Jacobs. Is he the person from Greece? Because,
Sorry, what was that?
Danny Jacob. He's not the person from Greece,
Danny
is he?
Jacob. Let me check. I'm not too
Oh,
sure because I did refer to Greece in this one.
yeah. Oh wait. He did the voice of King Julian in Madagascar.
Ah, nice.
Okay. Now, Karai is played by Kelly Hu. Have you heard of that actress or seen anything that she's been in?
Kelly. That rings a bell. Kelly.
She's been in a lot of stuff. I feel like you probably. Oh, yeah, actually. Okay, I'm gonna quickly go over her bio. She was born in 1968, which she's 54 years old now. She's a former fashion model. Hmm.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
she was Miss Teen USA 1985, and Miss Hawaii USA in 1993. Such roles which she's well known for are Raymay in Surf Ninjas, Lady Deathstrike in X2, or X-Men 2, Cassandra in The Scorpion King, Stacy Harano in Phineas and Ferb. Oh. Uh,
Oh.
she also did Cheshire in Young Justice and Laura Hills in Hawaii Five O. She also does the voice of Karai, but she has been in so much more, and she's one of those voice actresses that basically she's been in a lot of stuff, and she has a very unique and distinct voice that when you do hear her, you can be like, oh yeah, that's her. And I don't think she's actually changed her voice in is. I mean, Young Justice and Turtle, she didn't change the voice, so yeah.
Oh. that's interesting to know.
Oh, did you find out Danny Jacobs was in Greece?
Danny Jacobs, don't believe so. Let's see. I don't believe he was in Greece. I think he was only in the Madagascar series. I don't know. No, he wasn't. No,
No.
sadly not.
Well, it's a shame.
Could have been a good reference, but
Well, yeah, that's it for the cast. Yeah, do you have anything else to say about this episode, or do you want to sort of wrap this up now?
all I can say about this episode was really good. Really good to see Snakeweed again, and I am honestly so pleased to see Karai coming into this series now, which is really, really awesome to see. But overall, a great episode, hands down.
Okay, well, the next episode is called Alien Agenda. What do you think is going to happen in that?
Well, aliens are going to be involved. Hopefully, well, I know what's going to happen. The Krang are aliens, so I know the Krang's definitely going to be involved.
Yes.
And I'm going to have to endure the pain of listening to the Krang again. But I am hoping to see some different aliens come back and fight, I guess. Like, they're going to have an agenda, these aliens, and they're going to try and fight over it. Or do something with this agenda, but I know that Krang is definitely in it for next episode. Like, Krang is aliens, and I wish they were wiped from the planet, but sadly that's not the case. But it's a great. I think it's going to be to do with the Krang next week's episode, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
I really like the line where you just said, Krang is alien. I mean,
Krang is alien, yeah.
Um,
Get that on a t-shirt.
yeah. I mean, even though Krang is in next week's episode, everything's not going to be too bad, as we do have Karai in that episode, so look forward to it.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay.
At least it makes up for it a bit.
Definitely.
But yeah. Okay, so yeah. If you do want to get onto this podcast, then there are a few ways you can do that. You can leave a comment on the YouTube video podcast section video. You can leave it on the community tab where I ask the question what you think about this episode. You can leave it on the Anchor app where you can either send in a voice message or you can send in a text message, or you can go over to Reddit where I put up a post going over the exact same thing on the community tab, but it's on Reddit. But yeah, that's gonna be another. That's gonna be it for today's one. I've been your host Teddy,
And I've been Hayden.
and we'll see you all next time. Goodbye, yo, bye.
Bye.